Did you eat well? I know some of y'all go back to your churches and you report about what you did at the Southern Baptist Convention, and they stream all this online and it's recorded. So play this part when you get home. Church, your messengers worked hard on Tuesday. They were here all day long and did a whole lot of business, and so be kind to them when they get back home. We do want at this time to call all of those who are planning to submit nominations for the office of president. Please to come forward and present yourself at the parliamentarian's desk that's over to my right, stage right. All those making nominations for the office of president. In just a moment, we're going to have a committee report, but before we do that, the chair will recognize Don Currents to come and to bring for us the results of a ballot vote that we took earlier. Now, I want to say, last year when we voted on these appeals, how proud I was of you. Because I know that emotions ran high on these questions, and it would have been so easy for you to lapse into spiking the football and doing a lot of clapping and cheering and stuff like that. That would be so easy to do, but you did not do that last year. In a moment, I'm going to find out what these votes results are on the Credentials Committee referral. You're going to find out what these results are. And I just hope that we'll act like brothers and sisters who love all of the people who are involved in this when we get these vote results. So, Don?
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is reporting votes on the motion of affirming the Credential Committee recommendation regarding the First Baptist Church of Alexandria, Virginia, and that they are not in friendly cooperation with the convention. Therefore, as voting in favor of this motion, there was 6,759 votes in favor, which represented 91.78%. There was against this, there was 563 votes, which represented 7.65% of the votes. Disallowed, there was 42 disallowed votes, which represented 0.57 cents. Therefore, repeat it again, as those voting in favor of affirming the recommendation of the Credential Committee, 6,759 votes in favor, 563 votes against the recommendation of the Credential Committee, and 42 disallowed.
So those in favor had it. The motion carried. And the First Baptist Church of Alexandria, Virginia is not in friendly cooperation with the Southern Baptist Convention. The chair will now recognize Jay Adkins, who is the chair of the GCR task force, to come and bring a report.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. On behalf of the Great Commission Resurgence Evaluation Task Force, I stand before you to present you the executive summary of our full report. You may find our 6 recommendations, which were released on June 3rd, at the Resources tab in the SBC Annual Meeting app and on page 15 and 16 of today's printed bulletin. Last year in New Orleans, the messengers to the annual meeting requested that Bart Barber appoint a task force to report to the 24th annual meeting in Indianapolis on the impact of the adopted recommendations of the 2009-10 Great Commission Resurgence Report. A 6-member task force was appointed, composed of individuals with experience in doctoral level research, including 2 pastors, 2 seminary professors, an associational mission strategist, and a state convention executive director. Our task force understood our purpose was to examine all pertinent material regarding the original GCR report and to conduct an analysis of their implementation and impact on our cooperative effort. We did a thorough examination of the material, and you can see a full listing of that in our report. We could not have done our work without the help of Taffy Hall and the Historical Library and Archives and the staff of the Executive Committee. We appreciate those groups very deeply. Regarding the simple question of whether or not the implementation of the work of the GCR Task Force reversed the decline of baptisms in the SBC, the answer is a clear and decisive no. However, to be sure, there is more than enough blame to go around for this continued downward trend, with the caveat that we are seeing some very encouraging trends as of late. Ultimately, if the SBC has not realized a reversal in the decline of baptisms, we are all in some way culpable. Every Southern Baptist church and Christ follower can and should, in the end, take responsibility for the current state of the Southern Baptist Convention. Early in our process, I sent an email to Women's Missionary Union Executive Director Sandy Wisdom Martin regarding the possibility of setting up an interview with her. Her response to that email may have best articulated how we are to understand our role in our current situation when she wrote the following, and I quote, you should see it on the screen. The Great Commission cannot be parceled and assigned to boards. While the efforts of our boards are critical, it's incumbent upon Christ followers to proclaim the gospel. This responsibility cannot be abdicated. We have church members who get married in the church, get buried in the church, and live their entire life without once sharing their faith. This is the greatest tragedy of our generation, that we would not personally take responsibility for the sacred task entrusted to us. It really doesn't matter what strategy we put into place if we don't change the culture of our community of faith. This has to be the foundation, end quote. With that, Mr. President, we conclude our report and move the adoption of this report and the 6 recommendations of the Great Commission Resurgence Evaluation Task Force, and are happy to field questions from the body regarding our proposed recommendations before we place the question before the body, Mr. President.
So, would anyone like to bring a question to this task force? Or so I'll tell you what we're going to do. We don't really have a way to do what you asked us to do. And so instead, what we're going to do is this. We're going to go ahead and consider your resolutions to be put on the floor. Okay. And microphone 5A, I want to recognize you for, would you state your name, your church, and your state, and would you give us the motion you wish to make?
My name's Franklin Creek Baptist Church in Moss Point, Mississippi.
We didn't get all of that. Can you start over? It won't count against your time.
I'm Jonathan Greer. I'm from Franklin Creek Baptist Church in Moss Point, Mississippi. I'd like to make an amendment to recommendation number 2, Part F of the Great Commission Evaluation Task Force, which says F, total designated receipts. I'd like to change that to say total CP giving, and I'll speak to that if necessary.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, if you would, please give a copy of your amendment to the page, and we'll recognize microphone 5 to speak to your proposed amendment.
Just as reading through it, the ACP serves to evaluate fellowship and whether we seat messengers, and I'm just assuming it was a clerical error that CP giving was not included there. I hope this is just a friendly amendment.
Okay, so we're going to allow the committee to make a response to the amendment.
We appreciate that. Appreciate any sort of discussion about these things. Let me be very clear. We discovered a lot over the last 10 months. there were things that I myself were stunned by, specifically related to another one of these amendments of what material, what gifts were counted to assign messengers seating and so forth. I was under the impression that when the GCR stuff passed, that something had changed. Friends, I was stunned to see that nothing actually changed. There was a name given to a system that had always been in place. Now, I know I'm speaking to another one of the amendments, but it's applicable here. Gifts to the cooperative program, gifts to Annie Armstrong, gifts to Lottie Moon, and any gift to any one of our entities has always counted. Any of those, what we would call designated gifts, have always counted for the messenger seating. I did not know that before we started this. With that said, it wasn't a clerical error, although I understand why you would think that. With that said, we specifically used the language total designated receipts because that does include any giving to the Southern Baptist Convention in the way we have always done it. So we appreciate the opportunity for the amendment. We would not receive that as a friendly amendment, although I do understand the confusion. President, that's what we would say to that.
All right. Microphone 3A. No, we have a pending amendment on the floor. Okay. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the amendment? Microphone 5A. Do you wish to speak in favor of the amendment?
Yes. As I've served on the registration committee for the last 2 years.
Please give us your name and your...
Jonathan Greer, Franklin Creek Baptist Church.
You've already
Moss Point,
spoken.
Mississippi.
You made the motion, right?
Yes.
And you've spoken to it?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not in order right now to be able to speak to it again. So, go find your best friend and tell them what you wanted to say.
8A, if they have an amendment to the amendment or the previous question.
Microphone 8A, please state your name, your church, and your motion.
My name is Kenny Moore, pastor of Davidson Street Baptist, Clinton, South Carolina. I was going to present an amendment to my dear brother, presented that. If it's permissible, I would like to speak in favor of of his amendment.
Okay, go right ahead.
I speak in favor of that, not so much of the wording that he had, but we've always had, and I know we don't like that word, we've always done it that way, but we've always done it that way. But in the ACP, it's always shown the cooperative program giving. I'm not talking about the designated amount, but there's been a line item that has shown the cooperative program giving. And that's what we talk about all the time here is cooperative program giving. And there's just nothing that says here anything about the percentage of cooperative program money that the churches are giving. Some churches are giving a great amount, and man, we really do appreciate that. But there's some smaller membership churches that sacrifice and give a large percentage that we never know anything about. And so that's my reason of speaking in favor of this, to show something in the ACP of the cooperative program giving. It talks about a little bit later about giving more to the International Mission Board cooperative program giving. And let me just add also, I really appreciate the words there to restructure and simplify the ACP. I really do appreciate that, and this task force has done great. But I would like to just ask the messengers to please let's pass this amendment just so we can have the cooperative program giving listed on the ACP. Thank you.
So microphone 2A, do you wish to speak against the amendment?
Yes, my name is Ethan Jago. I'm a messenger from Five Bridges Church, Panama City Beach, Florida. And I would like to speak against the two questions that we have at the bottom. The first section streamlines the ACP to focus on key metrics which align with our commitment to stewardship and openness according to SBC Bylaw 18, Section 1. It is the duty of each church to furnish annually a report to the convention showing the names of the officers of the church and giving statistical information. As requested by the convention, simplifying the ACP encourages greater participation from the local churches, providing clearer picture for our cooperative progress. However, while intended, and I think it's well intended, the additional questions have potentially problematic and serious downsides due to unintended consequences for faithful local churches, pastors, ministry, and lay leaders. We expect these two questions to be weaponized against our faithful churches and brothers and sisters. We recommend rejecting these final two questions.
Okay. So, Jonathan, are you still at microphone 5? Okay. The committee would like to propose what they think would be an amendment to your amendment that would make it a friendly amendment. And so we're going to recognize the committee to make that proposal.
Jonathan, I can't quite see where you are, but I'm just look in that direction. If you might consider adding a G after F with its stated cooperative program giving, we would receive that as a friendly amendment.
Okay. So let's see. Jonathan, is that acceptable to you?
That is acceptable to me, though the term designated receipts is still confusing to people because it currently refers to their designated giving to their church, not designated giving to the SBC.
Okay. So you don't have to find it to be acceptable. I'm not twisting your arm. If you have objections to it, you're good with it.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we're just going to see by general acclamation. Is anyone objectionable to the idea of amending that amendment to be this friendly amendment? Hearing none, we'll consider the amendment amended. And with that having been done, in the interest of time, if there is no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote on the amendment. We have what? Oh, do we have? We have several.
We voted on the amendment to the amendment. You have to vote on the amendment.
Okay. We have motions.
Yeah, but we have 1, 4, and 8, 8B.
Okay. So, just to make sure, microphone 1. Okay, microphone 5. Would you state your name, your church, and your point of order?
Yeah, this is Jim Gregory, First Southern Baptist, Mountain Home, Idaho. I don't really know if it's a point of order. I didn't know which one to punch here, but
I'll help you figure out.
What's that?
I'll help you figure it out, whether it's a point of order or not.
Thank you, brother. I just want to clarify the total undesignated receipts. We dealt with this back in Orlando many years ago, and that was so that
Okay. You might be asking a question. Are you planning to ask a question?
No, I'm trying to give clarification so that we're not amending and then amending an amendment. And
So you cannot give clarification. That's speaking for or against something as part of the discussion. So pushing the button that you pushed, you can't do that. Okay? All right, so we'll move on.
Does 2A have an amendment?
2A, do you have an amendment to this amendment that you wish to propose?
Negative, the wrong button got pushed.
All right, very good. What are you trying to do?
Point of order.
Okay. Please state your point of order. Is your name, your church, and your point of order?
Yes, Ethan Jago, messenger for Five Bridges Church, Panama City Beach, Florida. Wish to call to order the two questions that I would like to raise into question.
I'm sorry, would you restate your point of order?
The two questions formally brought up as my against this amendment, I would like to call to question to see if we could get a vote on that.
Okay, that's not a point of order. So the point of order is not well taken. What do we have next? Okay, so we'll proceed to the vote on the amendment. Okay? As many of you as are in favor of amending this recommendation as stated, would you please lift your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you please lift your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. Those in favor have it, and the recommendation is amended. We now return to the question of the adoption of the recommendations from the GCR Task Force. The time for this item has expired. And so now we will proceed to the vote on adopting the recommendations. As many as are in favor, would you please lift your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. As many as are opposed, would you please lift your ballots? Thank you. You may lower them. Those in favor have it, and the motion carries.